Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. Perhaps one of the most famous verses in the book of Habakkuk is found in Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 4, where it says, "But the righteous will live by his faith." And that became a verse quoted by the Apostle Paul to prove that uh, righteousness is achieved not through the works of the law, but through faith in Jesus Christ. It also became kind of a mantra for the Reformation movement. And surely the book of Habakkuk is really all about faith. The struggle of faith, the process of faith, and then the end result of faith once it's gone through the testing. In chapter 1, Habakkuk is questioning the Lord and saying, Lord, why aren't you doing anything about the wickedness that's taking place among your people? I have to see wickedness and violence all around me, and I'm crying to you, Lord. How long do I have to pray until you come and remedy the situation? And then the Lord answers and says, even if I told you what I'm going to do, you're not going to believe me. And he goes on to tell him what he's going to do. He's going to bring in Babylon to sweep in and take over Judah. And sure enough, Habakkuk doesn't believe him. He says, how is it that the Lord would allow people to be destroyed by people more wicked than they are? And so the Lord was right. He doesn't believe what the Lord was going to do. But then in chapter 2, the Lord goes into detail and talks about pride. And some would interpret what he says about pride for when he says, verse 4, "Behold, as for the proud one, his soul is not right within him." And then he talks about the arrogance. Some would say that the Lord is talking about Habakkuk and his pride in questioning the Lord. Others would say that it's the pride of Babylon, and the arrogance that they would come in and sweep in the land, and the way that they viewed the other nations. And I lean more towards that, given the type of descriptions of the arrogant and the proud it seems to be describing Babylon. We definitely see that in other places in scriptures where the arrogance of Babylon is definitely brought to the forefront. So Babylon was an arrogant nation that would fit with what's being said here. So the Lord is basically telling Habakkuk, yeah, I recognize the fact that they're proud. I definitely recognize that they're arrogant, but I'm going to deal with them too. And so don't worry about the fact that they're more wicked than the ones I'm using them to come and destroy. I'm going to take care of them too. And then in chapter 3, we see Habakkuk coming to the realization of the majesty and the power and the glory of God. And he uses imagery of a desert storm. In verse 3, he says, God comes from Teman and the Holy One from Mount Paran. That was in southeast of Jerusalem, down in the desert area. And talking about how this wind would come in, this hot wind would come in and produce this massive storm. And a lot of the description here of the Lord's activity is in the picture of a storm. And probably illustrating the way in which the Lord brought Israel up from Egypt and how they came up from the southeast, traveling northward to go into the land. And he used the people like a storm to come and sweep in and take over the nations. And Habakkuk is really taken back by this idea, and it bolsters his faith to the point that he says at the end of the book in chapter 3, he says, though the fig tree should not blossom, and there be no fruit on the vines, though the yield of the olive should fail, and the fields produce no food, though the flock should be cut off from the fold, and there be no cattle in the stalls, yet I will exult in the Lord. I will rejoice in the God of my salvation. The Lord God is my strength, and he has made my feet like hinds' feet, and makes me walk on my high places. So Habakkuk now has his faith boistered. He says, you know what? I trust in you, Lord, even if I look around and everything's destroyed. Whether he's talking about when Babylon's going to come and sweep in and take, ravage the land and cause all this destruction, or maybe he's talking about the violence of the people that he was talking about in chapter 1. Even if they come and ravage everything and destroy everything, he says, it doesn't matter. I'm going to trust in you, Lord. You're my stronghold. God is my strength. You're going to give me strength to be able to lift up into the high places, to rise above the trouble, the adversity, and I trust you in that. And that becomes the high point of Habakkuk, the very end, where he comes to the realization that God can be trusted even if everything else falls apart. And it's just a beautiful thing to see Habakkuk go through this process of faith, of doubting God, and then getting an answer from God, and then doubting the answer that he got from God, and then having this message of the glory and the majesty of God just bolstering his faith to the point to where he was able to basically forsake all and just say, you know what, Lord, I trust you no matter what. And oftentimes this is the process that we go through. We question God, and maybe we question God again, even after he starts to show us some things. We still question God. But then it's when we get a clear picture of who God is and his majesty, his glory, his power, his might, when we remember the great things that he's done in the past, that's when our faith begins to rise again. Sometimes when we're looking in the present, we become downcast, maybe we become discouraged when we're seeing the situations that we're in. But when we look up and we look above and we see a God in glory and power and majesty, and we look at what he's done in the past in our own personal lives, but also looking in scriptures and the lives of other people, it can strengthen us and to help us to say, you know what, even if things are going haywire all around me, still God is my strength. Still the Lord can help me be like a strong goat or mountain goat that can rise up on the mountains, that has those strong back legs that can propel him up the mountain to the high places. That's what the Lord can do for us as we place our trust in him. And it doesn't happen after things already start getting good. Even in the midst of the adversity, we trust in him, we trust in his strength, and he pulls us through. And the book of Habakkuk is very good at illustrating that and showing us that God can be trusted and that God is our strength. So that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.